Regular season or the off season, we have you covered as we give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL news and insight that a fan could ask for. You're watching the Titan Upload Network.
What is going on, Titan Nation, NFL fans, anybody who is tuning in tonight? We got a good show lined up for you guys. The Titans are eliminated from the playoffs, which sucks. One of only 6 teams, I believe. From what I heard, I don't know if this was as of last week or this week. I think it's an NFL record at this point for the fewest amount of teams in elimination at this point, which just shows the parity of the NFL this year is pretty insane. I mean, let alone the AFC South. You got Houston, Jacksonville, and the Colts all tied at 8-6. Jacksonville has basically folded the last 3 games. Indianapolis has been Indianapolis. They win, they lose, they win, they lose. And somehow they found their way at 8-6 with Minshew Mania. And also, I mean, the Texans, Case Keenum, who's been with like 55 NFL teams, somehow he beat us last week. So we'll get into that too. But of course, my co-host James here is with me, but we also got a special guest who we've been trying to get on the show for the past few weeks. Partly my fault. I will take blame for some of that, but it's good to have you on the show, Charles.
Man, thanks for having me. You know what they say, man. Good things take time. So I'm glad we finally got it ironed out.
Yeah, man. And yeah, for sure. And before we get going, too, I kind of just want to ask you to introduce yourself to our fans, kind of let them know like what you got going on, what you do with the scouting and your coaching and all that type of stuff in your company.
For sure. I try to keep this as short as possible. Just loving the Titans like everybody else for about, since the inception, coming to Tennessee, played football since 8th grade, went through high school, all district player, had opportunities to have scholarships and stuff like that. Had some other interests. That's a long story. I'll put it in the book someday. But after that, went to MTSU. My sisters graduated from there. Got an opportunity with the team, cut up tape for them at like practice tape and stuff like that. Moved to the equipment manager, did some stuff with them. Then went back up to the recruiting office, helped them out a lot off and on for over the course of probably like 3 or 4 years. And then after that, just in between that, I started my Twitter, and I always used to make Titans mock drafts, or started to watch the whole collective draft class, all 300 to 400 players, and started to make my list and rankings. Then I was like, how can I separate myself? So I started to keep accountability for, my picks that I would select for the Titans over the years. And that's kind of been my thing lately, and been doing that for years and years. My career is financial professional, sold some cars. So for anybody wondering why have you been doing this so long and you're not a scout yet, life happened. But recently, now I coach kids, coach the youth, had some coaching in college too. That's kind of, when you're in college, you kind of do everything. So whenever somebody says they come from the college background, you probably did a little bit of everything, coaching and stuff like that. But now I'm focused on, my sons and then the youth and helping them out. And that's kind of what I'm doing now.
That's awesome, man. And James, James has experience with coaching as well. And it's cool to have, both you guys kind of on the show at the same time. So as far as that goes.
Well, the me personally, I can't like you no more, bro. You at MTSU as a Tennessee Tech alum. Man.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I kind of liked about what you said is like you not just stayed in college and did stuff. You helped the youth and went through the youth and stuff like that. And coaching young guys, tell me, was it me or is it just me that thinks this? But the most fun part is watching that light bulb go off and then that one play or that one explanation, and they go, oh, and their eyes get all big and they smile, and then they understand, okay, now I get, why I've got to do this way versus what I want to do, because this person's doing this, and if they're doing this and I'm doing this, all of a sudden, is that not the most fun part?
It's one of the most fun parts. It's definitely being a football, savant and connoisseur. I wouldn't say savant yet, but like when you understand the game after so many years and you're able to impute that knowledge, and then they finally, understand, okay, in cover 2, because I coach DBs primarily, in cover 2, I got to stay here if that offensive person comes into my zone, and then you're like, yes, I taught you. Yes, that's my boy. So it's an amazing process. But other than that, a close second or maybe even first is just them becoming, young men. You know what I mean? Like, the lessons that they learn from the sport and it transitions to real life. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just amazing to me to see the light bulb go off, and then also see them understand what it is to respect the game, respect life, respect their parents. Because a lot of kids that I've coached over the years, I don't know about you, but a lot of the kids that I've coached over the years, they come into it, man, I ain't gonna listen to nobody, man. And then all of a sudden, probably about halfway through the season, the parents start talking to you like, oh, he's changed so much, and that's what sports does. Exactly. It changes you, because in every sport, you got to be disciplined some way. And that discipline just starts spilling over. For my son, it's now he's starting to, he sets his alarm clock every morning at 5:00, gets up at 5:00, works out. Now, sometimes, I ain't gonna lie, sometimes he goes right back to bed, but he does his workout, goes take a shower, lays back in bed. But
discipline.
Yeah, but it's the discipline of getting up and doing that kind of stuff. It's the discipline of thinking about that beforehand. Kids don't often think about, 5 minutes down the road. And to have them think a day, have them think a day in advance it's different. They're starting to put together what you do today affects tomorrow. And man, I tell you, I love coaching kids because you can see it happen in real time. It's it's just wild.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not as critical to coaches or about coaches. A lot of people, fans, they're super critical, but just when you walked in those shoes, you kind of have a little bit more grace for what they do.
That don't mean you ain't gonna joke about them, but
right, yeah. Okay,
yeah. You ain't gonna, you gotta have to have a few little elbows in there.
Oh, for sure.
All right, guys. So we'll kind of get straight into it, and we'll go ahead. I mean, Stanley Wilson, already with the $10 super chat. We appreciate you, man. He says, we'll just go ahead and answer his question too. But he says, looking at the draft order, if we remain at 9 or at both top 4 and both top tackles are gone, what would be the position y'all would look at next? And I'll let you start with that, Coach Barnes.
All right. Looking at the draft order, if we remain at 9 and both tackles are gone, what position would y'all look at next? For me, and this is early in the evaluation process for me, so I'm not privy or neither do I want to go off in the deep end and vouch for players yet. But I'm always for getting a dynamic talent at the skill position. So, like last year, for example, I was really big on getting a receiver because I knew that there was some depth at interior offensive lineman. So, one of those receivers, I've heard Neighbors, I've heard O'Dunn's Rome. So I think that those type of players there, you might want to nab them, because that's the game changers. Those guys make plays. That's what the Titans are missing, other than offensive linemen, obviously, like dynamic talent, separation, speed. So I saw someone say, take Kool-Aid.
Yeah, there's a guy named Kool-Aid
Yeah,
McKinstry, cornerback
yeah.
from Alabama. I mean, I've seen him play. He's pretty darn good, but we do need a cornerback. I mean, but I mean, we need speed at that receiver position for sure. Like, I mean, we just don't really have much of that right now. I think that's one of the main things that we're lacking. For sure. I do want to, before we get started on the roster and all that, I want to get into our sponsor. If you guys have not checked out HOMAGE yet, please do. The link is in the description. They got a lot of awesome gear for Christmas. They got all types of custom gear for the Titans, every NFL team. James, you got a few shirts. What do you
Oh
like
yeah.
about them?
I like the way how they're soft. They feel good on your body, but at the same time, you can feel the quality. You can feel, you look at the seams. The seams are stitched really well, and that they're unique. I mean, a lot of these shirts are very unique. You're not gonna see them anywhere else, and I love that because I love, when you're repping your team, you want to stand out. So those are some of the things that I just absolutely love about them, and the fact that they're at an affordable price. You don't have to use your kids' college fund to pay for a few shirts.
Yeah, they do have an awesome collection there. So check them out. Link in the description. And Awaken, don't worry, brother. We got you, man. We see you. Don't worry. We got you. We're on top of it. But yeah, he's saying wide receiver. So yeah, and then he says Tennessee will get the available left tackle and the draft first pick. I hope they get a tackle. I think that's what they need. But I do want to play a video real quick. We'll kind of get into this roster. I got an updated free agent list. I used to have Pierre Tart on it. Now he's gone to Houston, which is terrible. And shout out to my Houston buddy, 713 Houston Sports, Ruben. He's in the AFC Roundtable. So he's got an awesome channel. So shout out to him if he's still in the building. But let's get to this Derrick Henry video. I thought he said kind of a few cryptic things in there, I thought. Maybe alluding to the fact that he might not be here. We'll play it and kind of get y'all's thoughts, and we'll talk about, Derrick Henry, if he's going to be here next year or not.
Yeah, definitely today. You had that feeling, we had hope of kind of slipping in there and then being eliminated. There's three games left. I've been here my whole career. Definitely want to go out strong, which that isn't the case. But just try to give them all these last three games and leave it all on the field.
So I'll start with you, James. What do you get out of that? I know I think you've probably seen this video before.
Yeah.
What do you take out of that?
Well, I take out of that is that there's kind of some uncertainty in his eyes about what's going down with the Titans, whether the Titans want him back or not. Every indication is that the Titans are going to offer him something, but it may not be what other teams are going to offer for his talents, and it's going to depend on whether look, everybody's got to feed, everybody got to eat. So I don't begrudge a man if they're going to offer him 18, 19 million a year somewhere else. I don't begrudge a man for going and getting paid. I mean, it is what it is. But this is a business. This is not a friendship. These guys may be friendly, but they are not. When they're cutting checks, it's not a friendship. It's a business. So he's been an icon on this franchise. Particularly after year one, he really came into his own after year one. But I think that the Titans really need to figure out where they want to go. And right now, they're kind of all over the place. We keep talking about this. This team has no identity. And if I'm a player and I'm on a team with no identity, then by transmission to me, I'm not going to really have an identity in the NFL. And if that's the case, then unless I'm, a Derrick Henry who can blow up a game in a minute, I'm probably looking elsewhere too. I don't know if he's made up his mind yet whether he even wants to attempt to come back to Tennessee. But my understanding is that the Titans will make some kind of an offer, but I just don't think it's going to be very much. I think it's probably going to be the 10, 11, $12 million range, and he's going to want a lot more. And I think a lot of other teams are going to be like, yeah, we're going to get him. We're going to need it. We're going to pay him a lot more.
And Charles, in your opinion, what if you're Rand Carthon and you're going into this offseason, I mean, what would you do with Derrick? I mean, what type of are you giving him a substantial offer? Are you gonna, is it time to part ways? What would you do if you were Rand Carthon?
See, the thing with Derrick and just remembering watching him coming out of Alabama, he has a unique skill set, man, and that's hard to duplicate, around the league. One thing that I remember, he's always falling forward. That contact balance is very important at the running back position. And, he gains, residual in excess 2 or 3 yards just from falling forward. And that has always been good for him in this league. And then we all know what Henber is. You can't duplicate that. Nobody wants to tackle the 6'3", 250-pound running back in sub 32-degree weather. It's just, that's an advantage that the Titans have had over the years. So that's where that value, his intrinsic value to this team goes up a little bit. But for me, some of the prices that I'm looking at that a lot of people are saying, it doesn't mean that it's true, is like around $7 million-ish or like anywhere close to double-digit millions. I'm not willing to invest that because the Titans are moving towards Tyjae Spears. That is inevitable. And just simply because what he does on third down, his ability to make that offensive line look a little bit better because he can make people miss in the hole, and his burst. Derrick Henry, I think he's lost a slight step, and he's always been a momentum runner, right? He has to get that, he has to have a clear lane to get that momentum going. So if somebody's in his face, he's not going to evade anybody. So that skill set is tough. It's tough on that end, right? So if there is a running back in the draft, Braylon Allen, if you haven't heard of him, he's like 19, going to be 20. I think I always get the Nebraska or Wisconsin because they're red and white, but Google him, Braylon Allen. He's around the same measurements of Derrick Henry. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans try to target Braylon Allen in the upcoming draft just to get a younger version of, Derrick Henry. I don't think anybody can duplicate what he's done, but they might want to get as close to it as possible. If they don't do that, then the highest I go for Derrick is around maybe 3 or 4 million. I'm not going any more than that for the role that he's going to have probably next year.
Well, one of the interesting statistics that I looked at, and because I looked at it the other day, because we went to the game, me and Rossi were at the game, and something that I noticed is he kept getting hit either at or behind the line of scrimmage. And one of the things that I've seen that hasn't happened previous years is he's getting hit about 51% of the time at or behind the line of scrimmage. And because of that, because he is a momentum runner, he's very cognizant of waiting for the play to develop. And if the play never develops, then he's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. So because he hasn't previously been done like that, we've seen, he's already been 1 or 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage when he gets hit. And so therefore he gets 4, 5, 6 yards because he falls forward. With this offensive line, good Lord. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If I was an offensive lineman for this team, I would be embarrassed to say I was an offensive lineman because these guys are awful. Awful. I mean, I literally have seen peewee kids, and I see them all the time. I've seen peewee, middle school, and high school kids right here in Cookeville, Tennessee that use better technique, better leverage, better hands, and have better footwork than some of these offensive linemen we've been throwing out there. And that right there is a shame. That is a shame. You should not be at this level playing like this with this technique, with the techniques I've seen. You should not be, and you should be ashamed of yourself for being out there and playing like that.
I have heard there's a.
Oh, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I don't know if you guys follow Ben Fennell on Twitter, but he was just talking about how the drop off this year with quarterback play and offensive line play has been crazy. He's like a producer, like every like major game. I think he has to crunch the tape and watch and know guys. So he's watched a lot of tape and over the league wide. It's a league wide problem. Offensive line play and then quarterback play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it has. I mean, you haven't really had a player that's like any QB. I mean, I'd have to look at the stats, but if we had any QB that's just really, been insane, like had an insane year this year. I mean, Brock Purdy has had a lot of touchdowns, which is crazy. Let's see, touchdowns for QBs.
I thought Anthony
The
Richardson
leader,
was playing
well-
extremely well before the injury. I mean, I think
week 50,
I think he was probably the best.
Yeah, he
What about
was.
you? What about you? Did you think that the way when I was watching Anthony Richardson, I thought he was playing extremely well and that he had a chance to be something special this year. Just the way he was playing, he was able to elude tackles, and he was able to get the ball down the field, which is strange because he didn't really do that in college. I mean, he was able to elude tackles, but he would often throw an interception when he did it. So,
Yeah.
what did you think?
It's almost like when I was evaluating him, it was like almost like the Derrick Henry effect. Like, yes, we know he has the strong arm, and we know that he's athletic, and he's smarter than what people give him credit for. But it's when you get into these colder months, I envision him being like a Cam Newton. Nobody would want to tackle that dude on QB reads and him going downhill, and we just didn't see that this year, unfortunately, because of injury. But before the injury, I agree, man. He was slinging it. We talk about Will Levis's arm. I mean, his is up there. His is up there too. So we got to deal with that for how many every years he's going to be in the AFC South.
All right, and like I was saying, I mean, among the league, you have Brock Purdy has thrown the most touchdowns, which is wild to think about. He's also has an amazing team around him. Then you got Prescott second with 28, and then it kind of drops off. You got number one, number two, 28, 20, 29, 28. Then you got 26 with Goff, Allen, Mahomes, 25. Tua 25, and a lot of interceptions thrown this year too. Allen with 14, Goff with 10, Mahomes with 13, Tua with 10, Jordan Love with 11, Jalen Hurts with 12 interceptions, and Jalen Hurts' efficiency has fallen off a lot because I mean he's usually a pretty efficient quarterback. Like last season, he didn't throw a lot of picks and stuff like that, and they've been on a tank. They've lost 3 games in a row. So it's pretty crazy the parity right now. Like the only 2 teams that really I would say stand out are San Francisco in the NFC and Baltimore in the AFC. I mean, as far as being those top echelon teams, it's kind of crazy, man. Going back to kind of backtracking, I got off track there, but going back to Derrick Henry, during this game, and Paul Kuharsky, no, somebody else posted it. Josh Dubois posted this stat about Derrick Henry. It said fewest yards from scrimmage game for a player with 20 plus touches in a game since 1948. Derrick Henry 10 yards on 20 touches versus the Texans this week. Eddie Price, 15 yards on 20 touches versus the Jets, 1951. Floyd Little, 21 yards on 20 touches versus the Falcons, 1972. I mean, it's bad. It's bad in Tennessee. I mean, the offensive line it's just awful. And it seems like with Aaron Brewer, like he's a decent run blocker, pass blocking, he's awful. Skaronski's still a rookie, so it's hard to really gauge. Is he gonna be the value at that where they picked him at? Um, but I don't know, man. I mean, it'll be sad to see Henry go, but in a sense, I kind of I don't wish him to go, but I would like the man to make the most out of his last couple years and go to a team where he can really do something, man. Like, unless the Titans just all of a sudden miraculously fix this O line this offseason, which they can do with the money they have. I don't know, man. I think a lot of fans are kind of on the fence with Derrick Henry.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I believe if he stays, if we figure out a way to keep him and improve the offensive line, we'll see flashes of the old Derrick Henry, right? We'll see him be what he was to some degree. But I also believe because he's the type of player that needs 20 carries to get going, do you sacrifice what Tajay Spears can bring, for this 30-year-old that, yes, he has that skill set, but at what point is it time to let go? Because even if, like I said, even if he does go somewhere else, we'll see him probably have success with another team and have his D-Henry moments. But at some point you have to let it go, right? Like, is that gonna win us the ultimate goal, which is a championship? Is he that 25, 30 carry guy, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, put a team on his back guy again? Because that's his recipe. Or is he going to be relinquished to a guy that's just 10 carries, 50 yards, and he gets a goal line, carry here or there? So it's tough. It's tough. But one thing I do know about Derrick Henry is he has the work ethic and the right attitude in the locker room. That's something that you can't duplicate. So wherever he goes, whether it's here or somewhere else, he's gonna bring that with him, at least.
One of the things was me and Rossi were down on the field, and as we were leaving, the players are kind of congregating in this little corner, and one of them was Jalen Duncan. Hey, Rossi, you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and I walk up to Jalen Duncan and I say, man, we need to see that dog today. We don't need no. I'm serious, because all I've been seeing is a bunch of little pussycats out there on that offensive line, and we need to see it. I mean, to be a really good offensive lineman at this level, you got to be a dog. You don't play to the whistle; you play to the echo of the whistle. And when I've been back and I've watched the all 22. I've watched I watch a lot of film, y'all. Y'all know this. I can't. I could sit in my office here in this studio and literally watch football all night, all day, and then end up sick because I forgot to eat. I forgot to eat. The only time I get up is when I gotta use the bathroom or something like that. But let me tell you, watching this film, I didn't see a dog. I barely saw a puppy out there. I mean, hey man, I told you I got jokes, but this is a true joke. This is true. I mean, I barely saw a puppy out there.
It was bad, man. It was.
Yeah, before the game, it's like that. It's like that cartoon, where the little dog's talking all that crap, and everything, and then all of a sudden, and everybody clears out, everybody stops, messing with him when the big dog's behind him. He doesn't know the big dog's behind him, right? So he's sitting there. That's what I saw out there. I saw just ineptitude. I saw one play, Duncan, that the defensive end comes around. He kind of fakes to the inside, crosses his face, and when he crosses his face, he cuts around his outside shoulder and dips and goes. Duncan didn't even stick his hand out.
Hmm.
He didn't even go,
Yeah.
oh, let me see if I can get away with a little hold or a little push or do something. He just stood there and watched it like he was watching a movie or
That's
something.
all
He
in
needed
play.
some. Yeah, he needed to be, somebody to get him some popcorn, some soda, a little ottoman so he can put his feet up, because that's what he did that play. But and that's affecting Derrick Henry's play.
Yeah.
That's affecting our quarterback play. That's what's going to that's what got our quarterback hurt. So and it's not this is you can't just say it's Will Levis that's getting hurt. Every quarterback we throw out there getting popped. At some point in time, you got to go, what's going on here? And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, but it seems like everybody's getting stuff wrong. The scouting department, because they're the ones that are saying, oh, this dude can play, and I'm like, what dude? And then you got the scouting department, you got the coaches who are putting them out there in position to fail because they know they can't play. I mean, you could see in practice. Hey, coach, let me ask you, have you ever saw a kid that was out there and went, I don't know about him. I don't know. Maybe we put him as the holder or something like that. We're gonna get him in a game, we're gonna put him as a holder or something. Have you ever seen one of those kids?
Well, we all, not everybody is at the same level of their football experience. So I've seen,
but at this level, at the NFL level.
Well, Jalen Duncan, I mean, watching tape on him last offseason, I said it throughout the whole process. The guy gave up 28 pressures last year, and he doesn't handle power well. And you just told me he doesn't handle athleticism and speed well. What the Titans were doing with that draft pick was they were essentially betting on his traits. He's a big, tall behemoth, as you saw in person, right? Huge. But it's kind of ironic that he couldn't deal with power, and that's what they're working through right now. They're working through a project player, and it's tough. Like you said, they're getting a lot of stuff. I won't, count them out yet, but it's tough to put a project out there and try to protect anybody, much less your running back that's trying to break Eddie George's record or whatever. Like, this guy's he's the face of the Titans, Derrick Henry. He is he carried us for so many years. And then you got a young up and coming, I guess you could say franchise quarterback or franchise quarterback to be, because we don't know yet. And you're trying to protect the guy. Potential, yes. And we have, a project player at left tackle, right? That's your premier position. You have a developmental player there.
But they brought in, what was it, Hubbard?
Yeah, Chris Hubbard,
we brought in Chris Hubbard, and I mean, I thought Chris Hubbard had he's got the attributes and the ability to play the position. He has at times played it fairly well. Not here, but at times he has played it fairly well. And then he gets here, and it's like the guy he's never seen a block before. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, he couldn't block to the inside, but he made up for it by not blocking to the outside. I mean,
and the funny thing about that is
talking about Hubbard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing. I always try to. That's one of the things that I try to do with what I do is kind of just not having a hindsight 2020 mindset. I always try to just kind of be ahead of the curve or really just keep accountability. So Chris Herbert, I wanted him back in 2018. That's when he was right at his peak of being a great swing tackle. But he came here, and I think if you look at the analytics, he was our best lineman. So you said all that about Hubbard, and I think statistically he was our best lineman outside of Kuharsky. So this year,
and I think tough. I think Brewer was right after that. If I'm not mistaken, it was Kuharsky, Hubbard, then Brewer. but Hubbard and Brewer were like, I think I want to say 2 points apart or something like that when you look at the analytics. But I mean, why can we not find offensive linemen, and why can we not develop them?
I think
you know, oh, my bad. No, I was gonna say, I mean, and a lot of people, and I made a tweet the other day, and it got a lot of traction about, how J-Rob whiffed at Isaiah Wilson, he whiffed at Radens, and Rand Carthon whiffed at Dillard. And a lot of people got at me about that, about the word whiff and Carthon and Dillard. And my thing is, I understand what was going on. You know what I mean? Like, Rand was taking a shot on Dillard. You know, he was a first round pick, 4 or 5 years ago. Hadn't really got a lot of looks in Philly. And a lot of people were screaming for him last year. Trade for Andre Dillard. He's available. He's available. But as you could see, Philadelphia knew something that nobody else knew, and they weren't going to show us their cards. And to me, the joke's on you, Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon. Philly pulled the wool over our eyes but at the same time, you got to look at it too, is you would think it would be obvious. Okay, this guy, they have not wanted him to play much at all in the last 4 years. He was a first round pick. He couldn't even get on the field but a few games here and there. Right. So it's like, to go give this guy the money that they gave him, which wasn't, $100 million or nothing, but it was still a substantial little chunk. 10 million, I think it was, I can't remember the contract. I want to say $10 million contract, something like that. 10 million guaranteed, maybe a 7 million per year type of contract or something. But
I think his average was 8. So I think his average is 8.
Yeah, so mistaken. To me, it is a whiff. Now, I'm not saying Rand Carthon, it was a bad, terrible, terrible decision. He shouldn't have done it, shouldn't have took a shot, but it was a whiff to me.
For sure. Well, this is what. Oh, you can finish the thought. My bad.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I saw that, and I was like, and I see a lot of your tweets, and I'm moving so much I don't get to like and retweet, so don't think too much about that. But I saw it, I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because the thing is, this is how people think. And I'm a reader, right? So I think high school taught me a little bit, right? I read sometimes. And there's this book called Systems Thinker, and it tells everybody about kind of themselves. 90% of people or more think linearly or black and white. And then there's a certain percent of people who think in systems. So that move to go after Dillard was a linear black and white. 90% of people think, okay, we need a lineman, so I'm just going to look at the most expensive guy, because people equate money to value. So they're like, Dillard, I think McClinchy was there last year. These big number guys, and they think we got to get that guy. Where my thinking was, which I didn't say that I do for the past 6 years, I've added in free agency to some of my evaluations more so. And I do like these game plans that's like thousands of words. And my game plan was to go the route of finding bargain buys, guys like Jermaine Illuminor. If you have to Google them, do that. He's performed well. Right tackle for the Raiders right now. Cameron Fleming, good backup for the Broncos right now. Guys in the draft, like, I'm not looking at the shiny object, Andre Dillard, and like, oh, I gotta buy him. I gotta get that, big name guy, or I even said it was like a clever move. You know how J-Rob used to always try to get injured guys because the value would go down. Like, I'm gonna get, Caleb Farley. Shout out to him, by the way, who came back today. But he thought that was a value play. So the same thing with Dillard. I think they were thinking, oh, we got us a steal. Nobody's gonna, they thought it was clever to try to get the guy that nobody was talking about as much, or the Eagles shell. But like Rossi said, there was a reason, for that. So I just think that instead of getting the one big name guy, maybe get 2 or 3 with the same amount of money, but are feasible, and really try to do that. So That was my plan. Those guys have prospered, Illuminor and others. So,
well, I just think that we've got to do better scouting. We've got to do better player development and better player scouting. I think those are the two things where this team has been severely lacking over the past 5-6 years. It's been quite horrid. You talk about the misses at on the offensive line. You talk about misses that were in the draft, and that, to me, that comes down to your scouting department doing a much better job at digging down, trying to find what makes this player want to play, what makes this player tick, and we give our evaluations based upon what we see on the field and things like that. But if you look at Isaiah Wilson, you would have never known he was going to be a bust. But these guys get hands on. They get to talk to the player. They get to sit with the player. They get to know the player a bit. They talk to his roommates, his teammates, his coaches. And you trying to tell me that there wasn't some red flags that popped up right there?
right.
No, I don't know about that right there. I think I think that this organization has not done a very good job over the last few years at doing that. And then further, when they do get some talented players, they have not developed them very well. Playing players out of position. If you got a left tackle that's played left tackle his whole life, and then you say, "Oh, I'm going to move him to right guard," aka Dylan Radins. Now Dylan Radins probably couldn't play any line position because his head, it's a completely different thing to play the right side of the line to the left side of the line, to play tackle to guard. Those are very different positions. How you stand, what your block setup is, how you anchor, when you anchor, where you anchor to, all those things are very, very different. And you got a guy who they've essentially the only thing he has not played is center.
Right.
He's been here 2 years? Is that right? This is his third year. Is that right for Dylan Radins? I believe it's either his second or his third year.
It's his third.
Third year.
It's his third year, I believe.
Yeah. So this is his third year, and he's played literally every position on the line but center. The poor kid's head is swimming right now. I mean, that'd be like asking any of you in your jobs to go do a job that you've never done before, give you a couple of weeks to get settled in, and say, "Oh, well, by the way, this is now your job. This is what you're gonna do." And then coming back in a week later and go, "Oh, I was just kidding. Now I need you to go over here to do this other job that you've never done before. And I need you to be really good at it." And then to putting you back in your regular position job 2 weeks later and say, "Okay, I need you to do this job too." So, I mean, his head is swimming. It hasn't been fair to him. He's playing out of position. The same with a Skoronski, but Skoronski is a little bit bigger. He's able to, when he misses a block, misses his anchor point, he's able to make up for it because he's just sheer strength. So when you see Dylan Radins out there playing poorly, right? I mean, what are you going to think? I think this team is looking for a guy who they can put anywhere on the line and still be effective, that utility guy or whatever. Don't ask that of a guy who's only been here for a little while. You do that with a veteran. You tell a veteran, "Hey, you've been here 7-8 years. We got a new guy here. We're going to need you to, help him out a little bit, but then we're going to need you to learn this position over here too." And that's how those utility players tend to get. They just tend to stick with a team or a couple of teams for several years, and they learn each position over a long period of time. And they usually can only play two positions serviceably. But this is a young kid. I mean, I don't know what the heck they think, because I would never
memory mix. That's his opinion on it. I do want to we got about 15 minutes left. I wish I could go longer tonight, but I got somewhere I got to be around 7:30. But Coach, since I got you in here too, and I kind of want to get James's opinion. We've kind of touched on this a little bit, here and there. But kind of going into next season, and look, we'll have there'll be plenty of shows of us breaking down the Seahawks game and Will Levis and all that stuff too. And all that. But I do want to kind of get to this because this is one of the most important things going into next season. And obviously, we're eliminated from the playoffs at this point. They got to start thinking about what they're going to do. And so basically, what I got in red is just my opinions on who we should not re-sign. What I got in green is who we should re-sign. What I got starred with green is kind of like as a backup, bring them back as a backup for a cheaper, not a crazy amount of money. Now, James and Charles might think different on these than me, and y'all in the chat might think different. Derrick Henry, I got in yellow because he is, to me, kind of on the fence. But Charles, I'll let you start first. You see this list, like, what kind of are you doing? What are your thoughts on it?
Just based off this list, and I don't have like the full information on who, the cap casualty, just in case someone gets cut or not. But just based off this list, I mean, you're right on par, man. I mean, I'll start with who not to resign. I mean, obviously, guys like Fulton, I think his time has, passed here, just didn't fit. Ward, he's a guy that will probably be a practice squad in rotation because of his special teams. Raider, he's just like a tight end 3, tight end 4 type. Wallace, he's actually played well recently, so that might, and they traded for him, right? Or no, they was that a waiver? Yeah, a waiver claim. So they waiver claimed him, so he might he's a good depth piece so far. Chestnut, I think they might want to upgrade there. Wesco, Gibson, just guys that haven't stepped up. We thought we got a guy in Gibson, as a pass rusher, but he's actually graded well, so I'm not sure why he's not playing as much. Tape shows he's a liability versus the run, but I don't know. That's a strange one there. Taylor Stallworth, I think he was injured off and on, and then he went somewhere else. Then Tannehill, yeah, I just think that people are undermining how much I think he's going to get on the market. I think that a lot of people are like, we could bring him back. I don't see a world where he comes back. The amount of money, just think about what we said earlier. Teams want quarterbacks. Like, the play has been down. I'm not sure if he can get back to his 2019 form, 2020, 2021 form, but he's a quarterback that's competent. He brings leadership. So somebody's going to want him, and they're going to pay the man. He is going to pay him. So all your greens make sense, as death pieces for sure. For sure. I like your greens. And then the yellow was kind of, obviously that kind of means like, you don't know. But yeah, like we already kind of hit on that earlier. You just don't know. But I like this list. Pretty solid.
The only one that I would kind of change is I would probably put Ryan Tannehill in yellow, just simply because if you can get it back at a good price, and you don't have a backup right now, okay? Who's gonna back up Levis?
Willis.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Tannehill's made the money he's going to make.
Yeah.
I mean, his tenure of making money in this league like that is over. Let's just get that out there.
Well, I'm not saying big
now,
money.
I
I'm
mean,
saying if you can get him back at a decent price.
no, I know that.
What's
Yeah,
that
no, I get
price?
what you're saying, and that's what I'm saying. Like, what's going to be that price? And also, is there going to be a team out there who's gonna need a veteran like that? I mean, there's teams that sign quarterbacks like that all the time, but yeah, I mean, I at this point in time, it's like, far as Malik Willis goes, is he a legitimate backup? I don't know. You know what I mean? But, and I know, James, you said too, a couple weeks ago or a week ago, we were talking, and you were talking about how, the Titans might be doing some house cleaning, like legitimate house cleaning.
I
Can
have
I
a bold take. I have a bold take about Ryan Tannehill.
What's that?
You want to hear?
All right.
if
Shoot.
he's healthy, if he makes it through these last 3 games healthy, and he hits free agency, he will get at least 10 million a year somewhere. And if he doesn't come out for that, at least 10 million.
I can see it.
And don't be surprised if it's double that.
I would not be surprised if Atlanta didn't come calling. Just to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I would not be surprised if
He just
Atlanta
made
comes
some
calling.
money in this league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for all of his faults, you know, he's a pretty steady quarterback. He has a couple of bad games here or there, but overall, he's a pretty steady quarterback. It's not often he's going to lose you a game, but it's also not often he's going to win you the game. But he's going to make sure that you're in the right play on most of your plays. You know, he's smart enough, and he's been in the league long enough where he can recognize defenses pre-snap and get you in the right play. Whether you have the players to execute that play, specifically the offensive line, is a whole different story. You know, he may even get a call from Carolina. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that he's the better quarterback. He's a better quarterback than what they currently have.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Like
it only
how
takes
not
one.
to says Garoppolo. How not to says Garoppolo got over 20, and that's true. So it would be. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, Coach, I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's too much of a hot take. I mean, I think you're on to something there, and I think, yeah, I mean, 10 million for a guy like Tannehill, and like James, you're just saying the offensive line. Like if he's got a good offensive line behind him and some decent receivers
He's
and a
good.
decent running game,
He's good. He's
I
really
mean,
good then. You know, but my
and
thing is that
yeah,
if one of those teams doesn't buy, if one of those teams, if both of those teams or if all the teams that, you know, are looking to say, hey, we're going to draft the quarterback. We're just going to, you know, screw it. We're going to draft a quarterback. We're done with this. Then, you know, he may come back for 10 million. And I think the Titans would be willing to pay him 10. They've got what, 120 or something like that, 120 left to spend.
I think like 100.
Is it now down to
it's like
100?
100.
Yeah, because I know they
Yeah.
did some restructuring and all that kind of stuff. So to me, at 10 mil for a, you know, a guy who can get you through 3-4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, people have paid a lot more. Look up at Denver. Look at Russell Wilson in Denver. They paid him a king's ransom, and he's done what?
Right. And I was just basing those numbers off of, you know, Baker Mayfield and, you know, Jacoby Brissett. They got around 8 this past offseason. So I'm like, Tannehill has actually, didn't he win most comeback player? Or no? He did?
Yeah, I believe he won comeback player his first year with the Titans.
Yeah, so, you know, he's done some things. That 3-year stretch, I think if we go back and actually look at it, that was some pretty good ball, you know, pretty good ball from him. So I think, yeah, 10 is the starting point. And then it just comes, you know, if Art Smith comes a calling, yeah, Art Smith comes a calling with his situation, they're going to give that man the bank or close to it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Is it me or are the Titans, Atlanta, and Houston just swapping players all the time? They just swap players. I mean,
Titans,
it's like
Atlanta, Houston, Philly now.
Yeah.
New England, it did for a little bit. Yeah.
But ultimately, this comes down to, first of all, evaluations and scouting. I just don't think we're getting it done there. The next thing I would go, if I'm cleaning house, I look at my evaluation and scouting department. I look at my my training staff, because we can't stay on the field. We can't stay healthy. Something's up. Something's wrong with this. And then we look at, and then I would look at my position coaches and see who's making players better and who's not. You know, those are the ones, you know, even if you get a bad evaluation and you make a bad choice, if they get better as you're coaching them along, you know, you're doing your job as a coach. But if they're not and they're getting worse or staying the same, then you're not doing your job as a coach.
Right. That's fair. I agree with all that.
Paul says, even though I'm an enemy Colts fan, I gave you guys a sub. I'm trying to sub to all the AFC South Roundtable stream. Yeah, appreciate that, man. We've been getting some people trickle in from the AFC South Roundtable, and you guys go follow that if you haven't. We've been killing it over there. We've just hit over 2,000 subs in like the first 4 shows, so it's been pretty awesome. But guys, as much as I hate to do it, I got to start wrapping it up. We've had a
Well,
great chat tonight. Sorry I couldn't get to as many of your chats as I could. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. I'll let James lead the way on that one.
look, people, look, Christmas is almost here. It is time for you to get this stuff done. Get online, go to Homage, order some apparel. They don't just have football, they've got all kinds of sports on there. This stuff is fantastic. I use it myself. I've bought some myself. My son loves it. He wears it all the time. And I'll tell you what, go right now, get 20% off when you click the link in the description below. Homage is great, and you don't have to go hungry to look good and repping your team right now from Homage. Just go to the link below, click on it, and order your stuff. You'll get 20% off at checkout with Homage. Feel great, look great, and eat.
There you go. And Charles, man, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to get you on again. Just let them know where they can find you on Twitter. If you want to plug your scouting thing and all that and your blog, please feel free to.
For sure. Thanks, man. First of all, I want to say, before I get into all that, I want to say thanks, James. Thanks for hopping on, man. You've been awesome. Thanks, Michael, man. Like, I want to say this genuinely. When I follow someone and I see what they talk about Titans wise, there's no one who keeps a more optimistic viewpoint and open mind than you, Rossi. Like, honestly, like, it's such a breath of fresh air. It's such a breath of fresh air that, people may disagree with you, but you always come at it with a graceful point. I haven't seen you snap. Even if you do snap, you deserve to snap every once in a while. You definitely do better than me. So, so I appreciate that about you, and thanks for having me on. But you can follow me at right there in my my icon right there, BU_scouting on Instagram. I'm not on there as much, and on Twitter. Blog.thebarnesuniversity.com is where you can see my blog. It's also in my bio. Projects that I'm gonna going through a ungodly amount of tape over the course of the next 3 to 5 months, and I'm gonna be pushing out reports on guys, videos on guys, and then I always drop a off-season report. So the 2024 off-season report will be released anywhere from the last week of February to mid-March, and that goes over what I would do, players I would keep, how we should attack the offseason overall. I do a little mock draft there, and then during draft time, I do my own live draft as the Titans are picking, and that's where I keep all my accountability right there. So I can't double back. I record it, no hindsight 22 over here. So thanks for having me on, guys. Definitely subscribe to this, retweet it if you're on other platforms, and thanks for having me on, guys.
It's been a pleasure, my man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the kind words, and also go follow this man's Twitter, man. He puts out some awesome videos. I mean, when I first saw the first video I saw you did, like this, like maybe a month ago, I was like, I thought you were some, like, not saying you're not, well known what you do or whatever, but I thought you were like some well known analyst. I was like, damn, this dude's stuff looks legit, man. Like, it is legit, but you see those guys like Baldinger's breakdowns and all these guys doing this stuff, and man, you got a really cool thing going there, and we'll have to do that sometime on the show. Break down some of that type of stuff like you do. But it's pretty cool. So go follow him too. And I just got a text in our group text. I'll just throw this in there. before we get out of here, NWI out for the season. So that just came. I don't know if that just showed up on Twitter. That's wild. So, anyways, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. We do appreciate y'all greatly. Please sub if you haven't. We're like 25 freaking subs away from 12K. We've been, for whatever reason, we just been inching towards that. So if we can get those subs before the new year, man, that would be really awesome. So anyways, guys, we will see you next time. Tighten up that like button and yeah, see you next time, everybody.
Keep it real.